Allison, who was raised a Southern Baptist in North Carolina, says faith made her want to become a Muslim.
I think for a long time I've been looking for something. There's been like a piece missing. Always one little thing that maybe wasn't right. I think because it's much more about peace. I'm praying 5 times a day. It's kind of hard to go out and say bad things or do bad things when you're praying 5 times a day.
أشهد
وأشهد
أن
Muhammad.
Allison Poole says this phrase 3 times in Arabic
أشهد
and then in English.
There is no God but God.
And I bear witness
That Muhammad
is the messenger of God.
is the messenger.
Barbara Cardebuke, another recent Muslim convert, says 9/11 also played a part in her conversion.
After 9/11, I thought this is the time when people really have to start looking for real answers to get away from everybody fighting back and war. You have to start looking towards God.
Barbara says through Islam she found a one-on-one relationship with God she was unable to find as a Roman Catholic.
I always felt when you go to church, you're praying to Jesus or you're doing Hail Marys. You're not, I used to think, well, where's God?
She says her family has been mostly supportive of her conversion. Allison says her family is completely behind her decision. It's a choice she's proud of and says she'll keep for life.
Now, how did your parents react to it at first?
Because it was, you know, an extended period of time where I was learning about Islam. I studied for about 2 years. All the while, I talked to my parents about it, and they could see that I was excited about it. And alhamdulillah, I have wonderful, wonderful parents who have been...
I've met them. They're awesome.
Incredibly supportive.
MashaAllah.
So they weren't super surprised when I told them. The night before I took my shahada, I called my mom really late at night, and she said, "Are you sure? Like, don't rush into it." But I was sure because UConn was having Islam Awareness Week, and the final event was a revert panel. And so I sat and I was able to listen to the stories of people who converted to Islam, who reverted, and hearing that made me think, if they can do it, I can too. But I still had that thought in my head of, maybe you're not fully ready. So I went to the mosque, and it was late at night, so no one was there, the Islamic Center. And so I left the lights off, and by this time I had learned how to pray. So I said, I'm just going to pray, and I'm going to ask for help, and knowing that this is the right thing. And, you know, as I was praying, I was in sujood, and I kept saying, Allah, like, please make this easy for me, and help me to know that this is the right thing. And at that moment, someone walked into the mosque, and they turned the light on, and it was the light right above my head.
Did you take your shahada by yourself?
I took my shahada at Jummah prayer at the Islamic Center at UConn the next day.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do it in front of everyone. You know, they kept saying, "Oh, you can take the microphone, you can say it," and I said, "No, it's too much of an audience." And I really wanted my first prayer, my first one. I mean, I was praying before that, but I wanted my first official prayer to be my Jummah prayer. But what was really nice is that the imam, you know, made a really, really beautiful dua for me that the entire congregation, you know, kept saying Ameen to.
My name is Jenna. I'm Greek. I was born in Germany and I grew up in a very strict, traditional Greek Orthodox family. We grew up almost as other Muslim families would raise their children. Our families wanted to guarantee that we would be brought up in a Christian way, in the Orthodox way. We always went for vacation all together, and we never split up for vacation. So family vacations were always very nice, and especially our very first vacation in the UAE about 13 years ago. I was like 12, 13 years old, and the first week we stayed in the country, we did a tour all over the UAE. And it was on a Friday when we were on the way to a souk. Suddenly the adhan came on for the time, for the prayer time. And everything stopped. People stopped their cars, took their prayer rugs and just go out and pray on the streets. The sound of the adhan was something that changed something inside of me. And subhanAllah, I don't know what it was, but it never left me kind of. It changed something and it stayed, and I just wanted to know what it means, what it actually said. I was a person that I did not want to hear the subject death at all. I didn't want to hear about death. I used to leave conversations when it comes to death, and I never attended funerals. My uncle died in front of my eyes, taking his last breath, and that was the thing that changed a lot inside of me. I just started feeling that this life isn't exactly what I thought it is, and we're investing too much time and energy on things that could be gone in a second time. And because after the death of my uncle, I faced a time where I used to wake up 3 times in the night going to check if my father is breathing, if my mom is still breathing. Constant fear of death because you think that this is the end. That made me strongly start researching again about Islam. I researched before about other religions as well, but I could not find any truth in there or anything that will convince me. When I started reading about Islam, I found all the answers that I could not find in my own religion. The fact where I got really convinced was when I read the biography of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It reminded me so much of what we used to know and read about Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. So I started reading, and this person seemed to be such a noble person with such amazing characteristics, with a personality that I think I've never read something similar like that before. After reading the biography, I was convinced that everything I know about Islam, I have to delete it and just start reading from zero onwards and get my own research and get my own facts about this religion, because obviously everything I knew before was wrong. It didn't take a long time to find out that Islam is the truth and that there can't be any other religion in the world than this. Although I got convinced about Islam, I was scared to say the Shahada. I was like, yeah, it's the right thing. I might, take this logic and this way of life inside of me, but I won't ever be able to accept Islam because of my parents and my family. I knew that they will never accept it, and that if they would ever get to know something like that, my life would change dramatically. So I met a girl in Germany. She's from Egypt. Her name is Noha. She helped me a lot because I met her right when I started praying to find the truth, to get more courage in what I'm doing. We got to know each other. We talked about Islam. She started explaining everything to me, all the questions that I had, because I was convinced. I knew it's the truth. I knew my religion is wrong and that I couldn't live like that. After meeting Noha, I think 1 or 1.5 months later, I took my Shahada in Germany, in the student dorms. It was supposed to be just me and her, but somehow Muslim students get to know that someone is going to convert to Islam, so I had about 20 people in the room afterwards. So alhamdulillah, I had many witnesses. Alhamdulillah, I took my Shahada, and I will never forget that day, and I will never forget my first prayer.